I'll get there. I'll get there.
You're feeling too relaxed, Johnny.
I am
That's what it
feeling
is.
far too relaxed. This itself is a relaxed performance. Hello and welcome to Spotlight on Relaxed Performances. It's our second ever recording of the Lichfield Garrick's very own podcast. And today with me I have Matt Clay, our development manager. Hello, Matt.
Hi, Johnny.
Welcome. Tell us 3 interesting facts about yourself.
Oh, blimey.
I'm kidding. You don't have to come up with 3. I'll settle for 1.
1? That's still pushing it. Maybe if I start by saying I'm not in Lichfield, we're talking to each other across the borderline. I'm in South Derbyshire, and you're still in Lichfield, aren't you?
Yes, it's a forbidden friendship.
Yeah. So that's fairly interesting that we're talking, virtually across the airwaves, which I find quite exciting.
Yes, yeah. Fantastic. So Matt obviously is our development manager. Matt, what does a development manager do, sort of?
So a development manager is a fundraising manager. So I look after the individual giving, try and raising money from individuals for the charity, look after our partnerships with corporate sponsors, corporate partners, and also apply for money from the various trusts and foundations that are out there to enable us to put on certain projects.
Fantastic.
So it's quite a varied and exciting role.
Yes, I imagine you're often quite busy.
Yes, certainly.
Fantastic. So one thing we're talking about today, kind of the key thing is, I suppose, the result of that fundraising, which was kind of why I was asking you sort of to come and join me on the podcast today, in that this is something we've both worked on, we're both quite passionate about, which is relaxed performances. So I think sort of for the benefit of everyone at home, what are relaxed performances?
So relaxed performances, they are presented in an adapted environment. So it's for anyone who would benefit from a more relaxed and supportive atmosphere in the auditorium. But they're particularly helpful for people with autistic spectrum disorders or learning and sensory disabilities. And it's enable them to enjoy the show with their friends, their families, their carers. The most obvious thing about them is the performance is still performed in its entirety, but flashing lights, loud bangs might be removed. And the attitude to movement and noise in the auditorium is more relaxed.
Yes,
so if you need to make noise, if you need to leave the auditorium, if you need to move about, you can do that without worrying about disturbing anybody else.
Yeah, it's generally sort of just a relaxed, ironically, a relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I must admit, I really enjoy it because it's doing away with a lot of that kind of almost theatre police thing, and that the lights are a bit higher. You can get up, you can walk around if you need to, all of that. It's generally, and also what we sometimes have, which we have had for our pantos certainly, is when there are sort of potentially characters that might prove quite scary or intimidating, or certainly are coming out into the audience. Often sort of key characters will be introduced, and we make a point of making sure that any of those sort of villain characters are introduced at the start of the show, and made sure that people are aware that they are friendly and that sort of thing. Because the other thing
That's
we do
happened in the last.
Yes, it happened in the last Cinderella. It was.
Yes, they got introduced, didn't they? Or the characters got introduced.
Yeah, I think it was Dick Whittington as well.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we do now, which I think is fantastic, is goodness me, we send out the plot ahead of time.
We certainly do. And last year, I was tasked with writing that, which is easier said than done.
Yeah, it's not the easiest.
I promise I had seen the panto 2 or 3 times, but remembering the plot. Fairy Twinkle Thistle said this, and then so-and-so went to the woods and collected firewood and saw the prince, and who was pretending to be somebody else. So
the thing is, panto plots are loose at the best of times.
Yeah. I mean, it's not Catcher in the Rye. It's not that complicated, but I still was a bit of a challenge for me to write that synopsis. But it helped. It was worth it.
Yes,
and of course, people like you and some of my other colleagues, they helped me with it. I wasn't left all alone. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think I was any help at all. I had no idea, and I'd seen it twice as well. And I was just like, as you say, the hardest bit was remembering the fairy's name.
Fairy Twinkle Thistle.
There's a lot burnt into your brain.
Yes. I'm surprised I still remember that, and I'm able to pronounce it, particularly after barely speaking to anybody for the last 3 weeks.
Yes, yeah, goodness me. So the other thing that kind of we've essentially segued into the second question already, but so one of the things that we do as well, which I'm not sure, I don't know how many theatres do this, but we have our breakout space,
Yes.
which I'm really, really pleased with. It's kind of something we developed, I think, roughly when I first started, and we've continued it on since, which is and all of our relaxed performances, you're able to. There's signs pointing towards a breakout space, so it's for anybody who, upon arriving at the theatre, it doesn't necessarily mean during the performance. Anybody who just needs a bit of space away from the crowd, or just needs a moment to kind of just to have a moment, or to kind of if the people are feeling distressed or anything like that. It's a room that is lit in a very sort of sensory way. Lots of nice, calm colours, nothing too intense. We have kind of relaxing videos and music playing on our televisions
I
in
think
there.
did we have fish last year?
Yes, we
I'm sure
always
there was
we
fish.
we always use we always use this. I think it's because I must have it's because I became hypnotized by it once.
Oh yes,
It's this video of a bubble tube.
yes, that's it. It's not an actual fish. I should
No,
make clear. It's the video on the screen
yes,
is of
yeah.
a fish
I
in
mean,
the
yeah,
sea.
maybe we could get some real fish in there, get a small tank.
I'd find that relaxing.
Yeah, yeah, you'd find me missing the show in there. But yes, and then in our in our kind of breakout space as well, we always have a member of staff just to oversee things, and then also we have lots and lots of cushions and comfy chairs and that sort of thing. And it's all sort of fairly dimly lit, and it's
Yeah,
just and it does interestingly for people who I imagine anybody who's kind of attended a relaxed performance, who's thinking about a relaxed performance, can immediately kind of see the use of it and kind of know how they'd behave. But for people who might not know about relaxed performances before listening to this, in what's been really interesting is actually a lot of the time it seems to be just the confidence that it's there more so than
absolutely.
necessarily the use getting out of it. Certainly when I've manned it, we've had a lot of people come and check where it is, check kind of how it works, just on the off chance they need to use it. But actually, I think sometimes having the confidence that it's there can just make the experience more positive.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't. We said last time, didn't we? Oh, it's not been used that much, but that's good because that
Yes.
means that the atmosphere in the auditorium is clearly appropriate, so they don't feel like they need to leave it. But you're absolutely right. The fact that it was there, a lot of people came to see it at the start or at the interval, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah.
So they knew it was there, and they knew if they did need a minute, or however long they needed time out, they could just go in there.
Yes. Yeah. So when Matt, when do we generally do relaxed performances?
So at the minute, I think we only do them for pantomime. And we've been doing them for about 4 years. We've just done our fourth one, and each year we've become better at it and we become more confident because we respond to the feedback that we get, and we
Mm.
learn every year what works and what might not have worked. But I think as we do more family shows or even the films, we would probably do more relaxed performances throughout the year. The thing about a relaxed performance is we would struggle to just do it for any show that came into the theatre because it's very much about adapting the lighting, adapting the sound, pyrotechnics, things
Yes.
like that.
Yeah. Well.
So it has to
Yeah.
be a show that we produce rather than a show that's presented and brought into the theatre because we don't have much creative input into that. So the pantomime we produce and we run it for how long is it? 6 weeks, 5 weeks?
5 weeks, I
Yeah. So
think. Yeah,
the relaxed performance tends to come at the end of the run, so
yes.
we've
Yeah.
had time to get used to it, and the the guys running the show can quite easily make changes that they need to.
Yes, yeah, I think that's something that sometimes some people don't always realise is actually there's kind of more work that goes into sort of adjusting a performance for relaxed
Yes.
than you might initially guess. So I know for Cinderella, our wonderful lighting programmer was actually in a position where there were a lot of snap lights or lots of kind of fast moving beams and things, and he went through sort of every cue and made an alternate cue stack which just meant that all of the lights were traveling just that little bit slower. Everything was just a bit more relaxed, and that's quite an undertaking and quite a
Yeah.
challenging one as well to make sure that all of your lights are still timed correctly, all of your cues,
Yes.
when all the timings have changed. But I think it's really wonderful that that people are willing to do that, and people are not necessarily willing is the wrong word, to be honest. People are eager to do that. I think it's something I've always been sort of very pleased and kind of excited by is as a theatre as a whole, people are very, very excited and very eager to kind of do what they can to kind of contribute to a relaxed performance, which is wonderful.
Yes, definitely. And it's great that the cast are all really behind it, aren't they? Um,
Yes, yeah.
Sam, who plays our he usually plays our Dane, but last year was Buttons in Cinderella. He he's very much part of the process, isn't he? He started the show with the introduction, and this he introduced all the characters and said this person's the baddie, this person's the goodie. Um,
Mm.
and he did that all himself, didn't he? We didn't have to write that for him or
No,
anything like that.
no,
I mean, he's the director as well, which
yeah.
helps. But
Yes, and
there was a lot
I
of
think,
investment, wasn't there, for the
yeah,
film?
well, and I think for me that's so important because you can. I think it works either way. There are relaxed performances. I've been to where clearly the cast are really keen for it to be a wonderful, calm experience, but
Yeah.
that bit around it hasn't been changed at all.
Yes.
And
Because
it actually in that kind of thing, it's half a job, and it doesn't work. And
mm,
equally the same way, I've seen it before where the theatre's made every effort as they should, but the theatre's made every effort, but the actors aren't on board,
yeah,
and it's a real shame because again, it's really you've got to have everybody kind of working to the same goal.
absolutely. And I think one of the perceptions I think we all as a theatre want to change is that a relaxed performance is for everybody. We have times where might avoid coming to a relaxed performance because they think it's not the whole show.
Yes,
Um,
yeah,
but you still get to see the whole show. Um, we're
yes,
talking about the work that goes into from the cast and the technicians at changing it. They're not massive changes. You're still seeing every single scene, every single song, every single joke.
yes, yeah.
Um, it's just if you're okay with a bit of extra noise, maybe in the auditorium, which during a pantomime is quite quite
Yeah,
normal anyway. It's
yeah. I
quite
mean,
a noisy show.
to be honest, that I know of multiple people kind of who I've met on days of relaxed performance or that kind of thing who just prefer it because, as you said, I
Yes.
think sometimes pantos especially can get really noisy, and
Mm.
so we do have some. I think we do have patrons that actually they just prefer the atmosphere and the freedom that comes with it. So as I said, I think
Yeah.
yeah, that is something that we have to work kind of quite hard to make people aware of, and it is a change we've seen. Kind of, I think we have
Yes.
seen changing actually sort of over the last 4 years, which is really exciting. Um, that relaxed performances are for everybody, and
Yes.
it's a really interesting knee-jerk reaction that people have. I found it before working at the Garrick. I was running a dance theatre company that worked with kind of essentially deaf accessibility and kind of integrating sign into dance.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating that as soon as you told people about it, people who weren't deaf assumed it wasn't for them.
Yes.
It's a really strange knee jerk thing that we do, and I'm really keen that, as you say, people feel that that almost people exclude themselves by knowing that it's including others.
Yes. Exactly. It's for everybody, but this particular performance is a different atmosphere. That's all. It's more appropriate for some people, but everybody's
Yes.
welcome. And the same that people who have autism or the sort of disorders that will really benefit from a relaxed performance, they are similarly welcome at every other performance.
Oh, of
You
course.
know,
Yes. Yeah.
um, that's the sort of the other way of looking at it. Anybody can come to any performance, but these ones are just adapted to help you if there's certain things that put you off coming to the other ones.
Yes. Yeah. So, how how can we see when relaxed performances are on?
And so they'll be advertised with the show. So, for example, pantomime, it will say on the website, it will say in the brochure, and there should, if I'm right, there should be a little symbol next to the day in the diary when it's going to be. So similarly for if we're doing a BSL show, a sign performance, that will be indicated with a symbol saying it's a BSL show. Um, the same would happen with a relax show. So it's just advertised along with the show.
Yes, yeah. Fantastic. So why then, Matt? Why are you passionate, or why do you feel that kind of relaxed performances are so important?
I think it's very much about making everybody feel welcome. It's about including everybody and getting that message out there that everybody can come to the theatre and have that experience. Um, People will think there's barriers that stop me going. So, oh, well, I couldn't go to the theatre because it's going to be too loud, or my child won't just won't sit through that because they need to get out. They can't sit still for 2 hours. And we want that message out there to say that doesn't matter. If if somebody comes in and they sit there and watch it for 20 minutes, but they have a great time for 20 minutes and then have to leave, that's fine. Um, we just don't want people feeling that they aren't welcome. And we've still got a lot of work to do, and we talk about that a lot. We've got plans to be more inclusive, more welcoming about various different things. But for me personally, I really feel like we want to make a difference to everybody. There's not a single person who should be left out of going to the theatre.
You think you're absolutely right. I have to agree. I think it's an ethos I've lived with for a long time. Is theatre is for everyone, and I
Yeah.
think as someone who, I mean, as someone who grew up, I suppose in a sphere and a demographic that was always very readily welcomed to the theatre, and kind of I had parents who who enjoyed the theatre and all of that kind of thing. So I never found it a challenge to attend, but
Mm.
I think it's easy to forget that for some people it is not necessary. It's not always the most inviting space. It's kind of
Yeah.
yeah, it's just to make people aware that it is for them as well. A theatre is for everyone, and I think the more we can do to kind of encourage people to come, I think one of the big challenges ahead of us for relaxed performances probably is tackling the is not just tackling kind of the difficulties of getting of attending the theatre, but also it's starting to tackle. And it's one thing that we've seen progress in, but it's the tackling the very idea of thinking of going to the theatre in the first place.
Yes.
Because we
Yes.
have these relaxed performances and they're in our brochure, and lots of people really benefit and enjoy from them. But something I'm really keen for us to do, and kind of part of that ethos of theatre being for everybody, is how do we reach out and make sure people know that this is on and this is an option for them, and that it's something they would enjoy.
Yeah.
It's
And
something they
like I said,
might enjoy, and that they are
there's
welcome.
there's so much more we can do
Mm.
about it. There's so much more we can do, like I say, to get the word out there and reach out to various groups and areas of society. But there's also more we can do for the actual shows. There's more things we can do to improve the atmosphere. Um, Things we can do front of house to help people. Um, it's still a work in progress, but every year we get better at it.
We are at the start of a journey in many
Yeah,
ways, and I think, as you said, I think that's something that I'm quite pleased about with the Garrick, because we do always see it as a work in progress. It can always be better, and so I will say, if anybody who is listening has suggestions at all on how we could be improving things, people who've attended relaxed performances, or equally if anybody has sort of ways that they would like to get the word out, or other ways that might be able to support kind of the putting on of our relaxed performances and kind of making sure people know about them and know that they are for everybody, please do let us know. Get in touch either at education@lichfieldgarrick.com, or fire it down in the comments below, because I think the more we
absolutely.
can, yeah, the more well, I think for us, we welcome feedback, positive or negative, really, because negative means that we can make a positive change.
Absolutely, and that's what's really helped us over the last 3 or 4 years
Yes,
is feedback.
yeah,
We've done our research and we've spoken to people and got advice about how to put a relaxed performance on, but we are by no way experts. We're doing our best, but the best feedback we can get is from the people attending,
Yes.
to say this worked, this didn't work, or people who aren't attending saying I'm not coming because you're not doing this. So if you did do
Yeah.
this, we would be able to come. Um, so we can do our best to
Yeah,
act on that.
absolutely. Because I think, despite the fact that we're on this podcast talking about it, we're not the most qualified to be,
Yeah.
I suppose, to kind of tell people the true benefits of them and
Yes.
of relaxed performances. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but people are still able to get in touch with box office during this time of
Yes. Our phone
closure.
number, our phone lines are closed, but the email address is still monitored. The email is garrick@lichfieldgarrick.com. The Facebook and Twitter are still monitored, obviously daily. It's just really the phone lines that aren't open, and also the building. You can't come in and
Yes,
see
yeah.
us at the
Sadly,
minute.
you can't
Quite
physically come
right.
in and see us.
But even if you would like a phone call, you can email her to say, "Can somebody speak to you on the phone?" Because we just can't receive calls, but we can phone out if we have. It's challenging for us to do that,
Yeah,
but we're
yeah.
doing what we
But
can.
equally, I think I'd always encourage anybody who's kind of sees that we've got relaxed performances on, or I think, to be honest, relaxed performances at any other theatre as well. If
Yeah,
ever you're unsure, most theatres I've been to or worked with that kind of provide relaxed performances are always very eager to accommodate whatever people need as best they can. So
yeah,
if ever you find yourself unsure, I would always urge people to just, as I said, to call up, or at the moment, email asking for a call and ask a bit more about what we do, um, to see if it's right for you, or to suggest ways it could be improved after kind of hearing more about it. It really is. It's a collaborative effort between us and kind of the public in many ways. And so, yeah, if ever you find yourself unsure, please do get in touch before deciding that it's not for you.
yeah. Yes, absolutely. We can give as much advice as we can. We can find out things we can't answer, and we can take on board your comments if there's something you need to help you attend.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Any last words, Matt, that you want to chat about?
I just say thank you to everybody who's listening to this, engaging with us while we're closed. Um, we're okay. We're getting there. We're cancelling shows, but we're managing to reschedule a lot of them. And just thank you to everyone who's sticking with us. We will be back.
So thank you very much, Matt. Thank you for your time. You
That's a
having a
pleasure,
chat
Johnny.
to me.
Yeah, anytime.
And thank you anybody who's made it this far in.
Yeah,
Thank you for
not at all.
listening.
Go and give yourself a biscuit as a
Yes,
reward.
get yourself a biscuit, get yourself a cup of tea, and thank you very much. So I've been Johnny McLean, and as always, stay positive, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.